Hello everyone, welcome to a new session in Octalysis Prime. Today we have our guest Nicole Lazzaro, who is the creator of the 4Keys2Fun. How are you doing?
Wonderful, thank you both for coming today.
Yeah, it's a great pleasure, and
Awesome.
Just based on our chit chat, I feel like we have so much to talk about already. And of course, you guys already know Nicole Lazzaro is the creator of 4Keys2Fun. She's the CEO of Zio Design. And why don't you share more about yourself and let the audience know about you?
Great. Well, for those of you who I haven't met, among other things, I designed the first iPhone game, and I measured the emotion on people's faces while they played games, which gave birth to the 4Keys2Fun. So I used Paul Ekman's facial analysis coding, and actually did moment-to-moment gameplay. And I did the sort for the 4Keys actually in the room just over there for that. But in general, I have a business where we do consulting on games and non-games to increase engagement and other business objectives using the emotions from play. In a nutshell, I say what I do is I add the emotions of movie through the interactions of the software or product.
That's a lot of that storytelling comes out also. And I think a lot of things are obvious in hindsight, but when you start working on the first iPhone game, did it seem like a big risk in terms of like, oh, does it even work when people play it? Or it was pretty obvious from the get-go that this is something that should be done and everyone's gonna like it?
Yeah, the iPhone game was great. It's a game called Tilt, and Joe Hewitt and I met up at iPhone Dev Camp, a hackathon, a week after the iPhone launched, the first iPhone. So this was 2007. And I had done interviews in line about what people in the iPhone lines, people waiting to buy their iPhone, follow people home, watch them play. What did they like the most? And I didn't think it was much of a risk at all, because I had a list of emotions that people liked, that the iPhone was already creating, and I also had the actions that people liked as well. And so using the 4 keys, what I did is I took that list of emotions, what we call an emotion profile, and then matched that up with the actions that they like to take, and then added some new ones, and then created the core loop in Tilt World was something that people loved doing, and the emotions they experienced were the ones that they most liked on the platform. So that's how we were able to design a very original mechanic. All you do is you tilt to play, you rotate from portrait to landscape. And to play, we got 1 million downloads, and we were the top hack of the iPhone by Wired magazine.
Wow.
And people shared it because after you played with the iPhone for a while, you kind of like, okay, now I've all done. It's not creating a lot of new emotions for me.
Yeah.
So what we did is we created a game so they could re-experience what it was like to be a new iPhone owner.
Yeah. So when the iPhone first came out, I remember that the App Store wasn't there. Right. That came in the second year, and they also they have a reputation of being very stringent. Like Flash wasn't supported. What gave you the confidence that you could even work with the iPhone to launch a game there? Yeah,
I think it's important to remember that there weren't even apps on the first phone. There was no game. And unlike the iPod, which had like a breakout little secret mode, so it was just one screen, a blank bar at the bottom, and then there were just these buttons that you push for the different programs. We didn't even have the word app yet. Because of the restrictions, I teamed up with Joe Hewitt, who was leading the effort for JavaScript and doing UI stuff in the Safari browser. So he was really ace, and what he did is he measured the width of the browser, so we knew we were portrait or landscape. So we had no accelerometer access or anything. But we did know, thanks to Joe, we did know how to measure that.
That's very cool.
So we did that, and kind of the rest is history. We moved that then we built a game around that, an ecological restoration game called Tilt World, where you play this tadpole named Flip, and she eats carbon out of the air, and then gathers seeds to restore the island of Madagascar, where she's living. And we go through all the different stages of ecological restoration, in that game.
So you're a frontier in many fronts.
Yeah. Well, I really like, if how you've heard the phrase like serial entrepreneur? I'm really a serial innovator. I create product always at that leading edge of tech. Doing a lot of work in the immersive space, so VR, AR, MR, XR, all the R's except for the E, no E. I did some work with Jim Margraf with iFluence, and we did a UI that was hands-free, all through eye tracking. So you could, sort your photos, run a calculator, run a spreadsheet, order from Amazon, all hands-free, just using your eyes.
I think a true innovator, based on the word itself, would probably be a serial innovator. Like a person innovates one time in their lives. It's like if you play a game one time in your life, you're probably not a gamer, right? So, but of course you are a prolific innovator. So very
definitely.
Very
and I think that on the diversity front too, having for people who run their own shops. So like I run my company, so I'm the CEO and founder. And so we're female-led, and I think that we've noticed a big uptick with being not just delivering one game, but doing multiple experiences that have been sourced, exclusively in-house. That really does change people's minds. It's like, oh yeah, okay, there's a lot of credibility that happens if you're able to do something, over and over, over again.
For sure.
And the 4Keys is actually a great tool for what we use with our clients when we run innovation workshops. So we've worked with, games like The Sims. In case I don't know if you know this, but The Sims, actually the 4Keys is actually baked into the AI for The Sims.
Oh wow!
And it inspired IBM Watson sentiment analysis.
Cool. I did not know that.
Yeah. So we worked with games like The Sims, The Matrix, Star Wars, a lot of big brands on creating emotions in gameplay. And so we do these creative workshops together.
So Watson is constantly monitoring what kind of fun is happening at this moment, and it's like, oh, serious fun is off the charts, and we need to push out a little social.
I think we'll get there eventually.
That's
I think
very
it's still pretty early right now. I think a lot of the money is going to using facial, doing what we did, in the year 2000, 2001, 2002, 3 and stuff. Early 2000s is that we're measuring these micro expressions. Technology's just about there, where we're getting some basic, facial action coding happening, and then you need to, of course, tie into some kind of recommendation AI. So you have the recognition problem, and then you have to then recommend, hey, a little bit more of this, a little more of that. For people fascinated with this emotions like I am, if you can imagine, feeling frustration. So I've measured frustration in the face in this moment of gameplay, or this moment of using an ATM, or interacting with a robot. Now, in the context of a game, is that good frustration or is that bad frustration? Because, we play games often to challenge ourselves, to escape boredom, and being challenged is a great way to not feel bored anymore. But is it too much frustration, or is it, just right?
Yeah. I tend to be stuck in frustration games. Like I look in the past, all the games I became really good at, the first week I just get obliterated. But the games where I start off being really awesome at, I just lose interest really quickly. And I have friends who are the opposite. They only play games at the first week they feel great, but if it's frustrating, they stop. So there's some player type analysis there. It's very interesting.
Yeah, very, very much so. And I think that when you're designing a product that multiple people use, or as wide an audience as possible, you have Cuphead or Super Meat Boy on one hand, super frustrating games, and then you have games that are like Bejeweled, very low frustration. But that or Candy Crush. I think that's a really good example. With if you remember Bejeweled, when Candy Crush came out, at that point in time when Candy Crush launched, pretty much people thought that match 3 game mechanics were just dead. And so people were really surprised when Candy Crush came out, because it became very popular. And if you look at it, it actually is because of these 4 keys to fun.
Yeah.
Whereas Bejeweled really did the easy fun and serious fun rather well, and then they did a Bejeweled Blitz on Facebook to add people fun. What happens with Candy Crush is that they actually get all 4. Each level is a unique challenge. Right?
Yeah.
They add new power-ups, and so there's a lot more strategy in
Chocolates
Candy
are
Crush.
frustrating to deal with.
Yeah, or jellies, that kind of thing. Or you have to get this thing. And there's a social map, so you know exactly how your friends are, whether they're ahead or behind you. And then there's a lot more serious fun and easy fun. So it's a really interesting kind of game transition for that one.
So we're at the end of 2019, and
end of a decade. I can't believe it.
I remember the last time I said Happy New Decade, that felt like not so long ago. I'm gonna say it again. But what excites you about 2020, both for yourself and for the world in general?
Yeah, 2020 we're really excited because a lot of the experiences we've been working on for the past 5 years are going to actually come out. And we've been working on them, with the 4Keys and designing new mechanics. Or actually, we've been designing mechanics to create new experiences in the body.
You're one step closer to greatness. Now check out part 2 to complete your transformation.
Octalysis.